Well, hey, happy Friday Live, October 30th. If you're listening and watching live, my name is Tony Gapastione. Welcome to the Brave Maker Film Fest, an online experience.
Everybody, I'm Krystina Jackson. Welcome to the show.
This is our second live today. So Krystina and I have been hanging together, and we have another event after this. This is super fun. We like to pack it in and pack it out, but we love good stories and we love good storytellers. And so if you are a part of our Brave Maker subscriber list, you would have gotten an email with this really great film that we are going to be highlighting today. And before we bring on the filmmaker, the writer and director, make sure you go to bravemaker.com/buzz to get on this list, because there are free movies happening on the regular. And then we're hosting these really cool conversations with people that are telling brave stories. We believe brave stories can change the world, and film is one of the best and most powerful mediums to do this. So with no further ado, I get to use my Spanish a little bit today to welcome Miguel Angel Caballero. Bienvenidos, Miguel. I got to unmute you. What's up? You got to unmute yourself too, just so you can share your beautiful...
there it is. Hi, Tony. All right. Hi, Krystina. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Miguel. So, Miguel, this film also has a beautiful name that I want to be able to say, Acuitzeramo. But I say it a little bit with an Italian accent,
a little bit of a hint of Italian.
Yeah,
it's Italian. It's a little Italian, but it's a town in Acuitzeramo. Yeah, it's a town in Mexico. And tell us about this film, and then we're going to watch a trailer. So tell us about Acuitzeramo.
So this story takes place in the town of Acuitzeramo, which is in the state of Michoacán in Mexico. And it's the story of Salvador, an elder who loses his partner of 15 years. So he calls his partner's estranged son, who lives in Chicago, and tells him, one, that his father is dead, and two, that his father was gay. So his son makes the journey for his father's funeral, and these two characters are challenged to see if through empathy, love, and understanding, they could bridge an emotional and a class gap, because they're very different people, and a generational gap as well. And that's the story of Acuitzeramo.
Yeah, great. Let's watch this 1 minute trailer to refresh our minds. And I love that you did tackle a lot of layers and a lot of subtext in a very short amount of time. So here is the 1 minute trailer for Acuitzeramo. Stand by.
Ya falleció Roberto.
Whew.
That, oh my goodness, that is so beautiful. So I want to say I've seen the short, and with this is one of the first shorts that I've seen within the first couple of minutes. I was already in tears, and that is so rare for me. I was in a relationship with a woman from Guadalajara for 15 years, so a lot of the story really resonated with me. Whenever we would visit Mexico, there was always like this unspoken where our relationship wasn't acknowledged, and people referred to me as su amiga. ¿Dónde está su amiga? And but they wouldn't really
Mm.
acknowledge, that we were together and we weren't supported and celebrated the way that everyone wants to be. Watching Sal go through this, it just was like, ah, and you really captured the loneliness of it and the difficultness of it. Can you tell us about the story?
I'm sorry, you caught it. How the story came about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I actually grew up in the town of Acuitzeramo. It's in the state of Michoacan. So I split my time until I was 14 from Acuitzeramo in the U.S. And I remember growing up there. There was a lot of elders that were single, and that they just, the story was that they just never really found anybody that, to marry. And as I, became an adult and started reflecting back and, accepted myself as a gay man, I started thinking about all these elders that were single in this town and wondering if they really didn't find anybody to marry, or if they just couldn't be with the person they actually loved because they were gay. And the story kind of came from there, and it evolved, and that's pretty much where the inception of the story came from.
It's really this beautiful. First of all, Acuitzeramo is a beautiful town. I mean, when I'm assuming it was a drone, comes about the church building and the bells, it's like very breathtaking. The way that you make this town look, and it's so cliche to say this, but the fact that this city is a character is really powerful, and the culture is a character. And you talk about the class and the differences, which now we have. So we need to bring in your crew and your cast, because we have,
yes,
which is so great. We don't always get this. We don't always get actors, producers, and cinematographers. So why don't you introduce your cast and crew here?
Sure. So we have the cinematographer is Philippe, who did an amazing job, and he's responsible for the look of the film, which everybody compliments. We have the lead actor Sal Lopez, who played the role of Salvador. And we also have the lead actor, Luis Aldana, and he's also producer on the film and my writing partner.
Fantastic. All right, so let's talk about this. Sal, you are something to behold in this film. And yeah, I'd love to just have you talk about playing such a nuanced role, a man who's losing the loss of his partner, of his male partner, in a culture that doesn't recognize LGBTQ relationships. I mean, just the fact that you have this moment on screen is so powerful here. How did you get there? What was happening? Talk to us about the building of this character and who he is.
Well, I mean, I think, it's a real tragedy for people. I'm sure that some people are still living that way and living that life and the hidden life. And I think, we wanted to get to the crux of that that authenticity, in terms of representing the characters both in a real sense, and also have them speak this truth and be authentic, not just to, like you said, it made such a big difference being on location at this little town that, you could see people that I was portraying. You could see them there. And so it wasn't that much of a stretch to bring that reality to the performance, and also just with, the vision. I mean, it was all in the script. And I think, with Miguel's vision and Felipe's beautiful cinematography and Luis, of course, working across Luis, it just all came together. Everything was right. We did this in over a weekend. We flew down there and just became part of the town, and we bonded also just as a crew and a cast. And so that had a lot to do with it, that we were all on this mission to tell this story. We had some crew from Mexico City, So we had Mexicans, we had Mexican Americans, you know, and it was really kind of a unifying way to bring all this talent together to create something really beautiful that we believed in. Some of the karma was on our favor, you know. For instance, the scene in the cemetery, it was decorated. That's the way we found it, and because at that time it was just a stroke of luck that it was basically dressed, you know, and just a lot of little incidences that happened that were just coincidental and worked out in our favor.
Yeah, that scene in the cemetery is pretty cool. So that was not designed on your half. You just happened into it.
Actually, Philippe designed the whole thing there.
Yeah,
he was out there placing on.
We actually, Philippe, Luis, and I went in 2018 before we shot the film to location scout, and we went into the cemetery, and it had this sort of heaviness, this kind of dry patches, and it was just very sort of dark. And I thought, you know what, we could use this. This is good. So we show up for the actual shoot, and they had just done this holiday or this tradition where they just dress it up. And me and Philippe were like, holy crap, what is this? And we're like, okay, this is gonna look great too. So we had to just roll with the punches.
It's beautiful.
I mean, if I remember correctly, I think all the decorations were remnants of Dia de los Muertos from November of 2018.
Yeah,
so
I think so.
We got lucky.
What a beautiful happenstance. That's incredible. Yeah. That shot is just stunning.
Well, let's talk about the look of the film. Philippe, cinematographer, yeah. You had some beautiful colors to work with, but what was your thinking? I mean, we also have people who love hearing about lenses and gear and stuff, so don't shy away from that too. We'd love to hear that kind of thing, but talk about your perspective as a cinematographer.
I mean, honestly, I was just kind of the co-pilot to Miguel's meticulous plan that he had. So when it came down to, you know, choosing my shots and angles, it's just literally opening your eyes and, you know, finding a symmetry in a town that literally has no symmetry. Everything is slightly off. You know, they painted the house right before we got there. And it was basically just me getting to know this town as I'm shooting it. Hey, look over there. There's a beautiful fruit stand. Let's shoot that. Hey, you know, it's just working with everything. But I always say this, a lot of the work was done for me. It's a beautiful place, and we turned on the cameras and, you know, capture these moments. And, you know, I couldn't be prouder of how it looks, but I have to say that the stage, like they said, was meant for us to shoot this story there.
And so, Luis, someone who participated as an actor and producer and co-writer, you are very much dialed in. What's something that you think, when you look back, that was, I like hearing highlights, of course, but what's something that you learned along the way about your craft? No matter how long we're in this business of entertainment, there's always things that we're learning, and you're a triple threat or quadruple threat. What are things that you learned in this process of making this story?
I mean, you know, and to clarify, I didn't co-write this with Miguel, and I are co-writing other things, but Miguel did write
this one. Gotcha.
Right. But yeah, you know, thank you. You know, you're always learning. You're constantly, as an actor, as a producer, you know, a person wearing multiple hats with a tight budget, you know. But one of the things, you know, speaking about the craft, you know, that sort of got ratified for myself and really a lesson that I learned and literally being across a table of, you know, one of the sort of most talented actors, you know, working now and really just being present and listening. You know, I took many cues from just Sal, you know, and being present, being in the moment. And really the rehearsal period, also another huge sort of thing that we, you know, can't be emphasized enough. You know, the notion of prepping and knowing that we were stepping into a 3-day shoot, and that we were gonna sort of our little pirate crew came into this town, and we were together for 3 hours, and we knew that once I mean, the 3 days. And once those 3 days were gone, everyone was literally gonna disappear. You know, Sal was flying back, everyone was flying back. Miguel and I stayed a few days to sort of wrap everything up. But we knew that rehearsal period between Miguel, Sal, and myself was crucial. And that's another thing that I think I learned, you know, how important taking advantage of that time and finding the nuances and listening more than anything. I would say listening to Sal, the person that I'm playing with, and also listening to Miguel's, you know, like Philippe said, meticulous and very specific direction. I think is something that I continue to expand on and definitely learned in this process.
So I'm going to ask one question to Sal, then I'll turn it over to Krystina. So Luis talking about listening and acting and process, you know, that's a very common thing actors talk about. You know, acting is reacting. And you, Sal, have had a very long career. You have had many, many roles in film and TV. Curious for you to share about what some of your highlight roles have been in your past as a Latinx actor and performer. Things have changed and things have grown, and you have seen a lot of changes. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about your career highlights and things that you've learned as a performer along the way.
Things have changed quite a bit. I mean, I think there's a lot more opportunity now, and doors are opening. And I think, you know, sometimes I say I would love to start now, you know, but it is what it is, you know. Well, this is definitely one of my favorite roles. You know, it's something that I could sink my teeth into. That was, you know, a real important role. You know, sometimes these things are rare. You know, that come by that are really substantive and also just have something so much to say. You know, but my gosh, I mean, I have had a few roles that I really enjoyed. I played Edward James Olmos's father in American Me, and that was a real challenge because I aged from like 17 to like, you know, someone in his 50s, and that was a real challenge. And under Eddie's, you know, guidance, that was a different experience because just totally different. I was in one of my big movie that Full Metal Jacket, even though I don't have a big role in it, I was there in England when we shot that. Working with Stanley Kubrick was, you know, an experience of a lifetime, and we were there. I was there for almost a year shooting. So that was a whole experience that I could talk to you hours about just that experience. You know,
we should have you back because that was really exciting when I looked you up on IMDb, which you should look up Sal Lopez. We'll put, if you're listening on the replay on the podcast, we'll put his IMDb link, but you all have fingers, you could do it. He's been in like over 130 some pictures, and when I saw Full Metal Jacket, I was like, dang, that is so cool. What a history you have, what a legacy. So how cool that you are not above short films, because some people scoff at short films, and we at Bravemaker, we love short films. We think they're so powerful. Miguel's film, like, this is just a great example of the power of storytelling, the power of a little short story, 15 minutes long, to make you think, to open eyes, to impact culture. So thank you, Sal, for saying yes to short films, and Miguel for writing, and Luis for producing, and Philippe for shooting it. But let's keep this conversation going. Krystina, what do you want to know next?
So, Luis, you touched on a little bit how crucial it was, the rehearsal. I'm an actor. I'm new to the industry. I'm just taking acting classes now. I'm studying the Meisner technique. If you guys could book Luis and Sal, we'll start with Luis. Dig in a little bit. If you're comfortable with, tell us a little bit about the emotional preparation you did for your character to play a grieving son.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I'll tell you, it's been really rare is the moment where you could actually reprise a role. You know, there's our first short film under the Aldana Alchemy banner, which is Miguel and my production company. a year prior, we did Broken Sunflower Hearts, where I played the same character. So technically, this move, Acuitzeramo, the way we sort of conceptualize the narratives, is the prequel to Broken Sunflower Hearts. I mean, the films stand on their own, and you know, some people know that the films are narratively connected. But to answer your question, Krystina, I mean, I think being immersed in the world of Anthony for literally 2 years, and delving into the nuanced realities of myself, and what would it be like to really have that experience? You know, what is the you know, and it's weird to talk about method, whatever, but the thing that I use that has served me and that works for me is the notion of imagination, you know, and really deep dive what that is, every detail, every sort of emotional little crevice that you have to be able to access, you know, to really create the history, so that when you are in front of the camera and when you're on set and when you only have an hour or 30 minutes to get, you know, a page, everything goes out the window, and you just have to really trust that all that work that you did prior shows up. And if you have done the work and you've actually taken the moment to create whatever that mental space is, more often than not, the work does show up. And so I think we were lucky to have that. And again, the rehearsals really helped. We were able to figure out some details, even in the dialogue. And look, that picture that you're showing there, I mean, I'll tell you that's an interesting sort of anecdote that not a lot of people know. That picture is actually myself and my father.
Oh.
And my father, coincidentally enough, my father disappeared when I was a little boy. I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. And to this day, you know, I'm in my mid-40s now, and we don't know what happened. And this strange thing happened when Miguel and I were sort of prepping everything, getting ready to fly into get to Michoacan. And we were finally on set. Everything's moving at 100 miles an hour. You know, we're you know, getting ready to shoot that scene. And I remember sort of looking at the picture, and it's sort of the reality set. You know, that I was like, oh my God. And I called him over, you know, in a moment sort of where things were sort of, we were about to get ready. Felipe is doing his thing, Sal's doing his thing, and I call him over and I said, Miguel, isn't it strange that I'm looking at this picture, and literally, you know, art imitates life, life imitates art. I don't know how to explain it, but, and, you know, Miguel and I go back 20 years. So, you know, we know each other's history very intimately. And I said, isn't that weird, man, that I'm sitting here talking to this, you know, imagined character who had a relationship with my father that went missing when I was a child. And here I am looking at this picture that's actually what happened in my life, you know? So it was this weird, wonderful, poetic, you know, symmetric, I don't know. It was, and like Sal says, you know, I think everything came together in such a beautiful way that we were open to actually receive those special gifts that you do receive from the ethos, from the muses that, you know, present, and you go with it, you know? So that was something that I think was really special in playing Anthony in Acuitzeramo.
Just go with it. I love it. That's beautiful. Sal?
I would just say, Krystina, you know, that you're studying Miser right now, and sometimes we get caught up with, you know, trying to create a character, and for me, it's not about creating the character. You are the character, you know, and so it's just you in that situation with all the elements, you know, with all the circumstance, and it's all on the page, you know. For me, that's where it starts. Who is this person? Well, it's on the page. It should be anyway. And then the next thing is, what is this person on the page? You. What is it that you want? What is it that you need? What is it that you're fighting for as a character in every scene? And then there's a something throughout the script that you're trying to achieve or try to get to. There's something that's motivating you. What is it? And then, like I said, for me, it's one thing, right? That the character has, he has in the script, and then in the scenes, there's certain things that character needs or wants from the other person, etc. In those scenes. So just don't lose sight of, you're not creating this character somewhere. It is you that you are playing this person. It's you, and we're all so different. We bring our unique nuance to whoever that character is, and you assume, when we see you playing that character, that's who you are. That what color eyes you have, what color hair you have. That's who it is. It's nobody else.
Masterclass, acting masterclass here. I'm digging this. I'm digging this. Miguel, I want to ask you as writer and director, I sent this to my good buddy, Matt. I'll just applaud him. He is dating a man from Guadalajara, and both of them were formerly married to women, and both of them had to deal with the stigmas of coming out and being gay. And these types of stories, like Acuitzeramo, is obviously it's reflective of the pain and the stigmas and the oppression that comes on LGBT people. That's one thing I'd love to have you just share about. But two, there's also this hope, right? There's a hopefulness in this film that I think and hope instills for the future. So talk about that. Talk about your reflection for the past and sort of your hope for the future regarding this story.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we were clear, because Luis, although I wrote it, Luis has always been there every step of the way, so, giving me notes and guiding me along the way. But one of the things that we were very clear is that we wanted to make this film hopeful. When LGBTQ community started having a voice in film, like in the early 2000s or so, that films were coming out, a lot of the stories were sort of tragic. They would end up in tragedy, and I think me, myself, as a filmmaker, I want to go beyond that. And yes, sometimes it's very difficult what we go through, but in my work that I do, I want to give hope. And I don't think for being a gay man or in the LGBTQ community, your life has to end in tragedy. So I'm trying to flip that in the work that I do. And even it's very subtle in Acuitzeramo, and you have the character of Salvador walking up a street, and very consciously that was chosen because he was ascending. And then you have the super machista coming in a horse, and that is your typical like man, you know what I mean? If somebody's gonna be homophobic against you, it will be him. And as he's going by him, he says, keep your spirits up, Salvador. So that was the town starting to accept him. So the whole journey of Salvador was that he starts off, it's a homophobic town. They don't really like him. They don't really understand him. And there's a lot of, resistance about him. But this man, he has a big heart. He has integrity, and he just accepts himself and keeps being himself. And all of a sudden you get a glimpse that this is going to change, and the town is about to change because he has stood his ground and he's accepting himself. So that's, that was very clear in terms of the hope you speak of. That we wanted to have in the story. The other thing, I don't think you asked this, but I want to bring it up. I think, Philippe is very, very modest in saying that, the town did his work. It is very beautiful, but, he's an excellent DP, and he brought something that I really wanted in the film. And, because Salvador is blue collar, working class, living on the verge of poverty. I didn't want to portray him in a very gritty handheld camera, like this man is like grit, which is often what blue collars are portrayed as. I wanted this to be beautiful. I wanted to portray him with integrity, with the beautiful man that he is. And Philippe, I think, captured all that and more in terms of simple shifts in the camera that he would do to give me like a really beautiful frame. A lot of the stuff that just looks so gorgeous, it was exactly what I was wanting for this film. And I think Philippe really, really captured that in every single scene of the film.
Yeah,
Miguel,
well, kudos.
can I tell you that is my favorite. That's one of my favorite parts, when he's passing the man on the horse and he says, "Animo Salvador," and he says, "Gracias." It just Oh my God, I love that. It felt hopeful. I was like, wow, you know, it did have
Yeah.
a really beautiful ending. Yeah.
And I was just noticing. I just wanted to say that while you were showing that right now, I saw the smoke there, and I remember Felipe being very, making sure that whoever the smoke was making the smoke, we had to reshoot every time because Miguel want that smoke in there. But it works. It works beautifully.
Tell him the story, Felipe.
I always tell this story because, you know, to people who watch the film, it seems like we had a fogger right outside the frame, and it was planned, and we're like, okay, cue the smoke. The neighbor was burning their trash right next to where we were shooting. So instead of, you know, being like, we can't shoot here, we have to find somewhere else, we're like, great, let's run with it. Let's give the shot some atmosphere. You watch it and it looks beautiful, but it's burning trash, going past the frame. Another beautiful, happy gift that was given to us by the town, regardless of whether it was burning trash or not.
And that was actually our last shot of the entire shoot. Well, we had a couple pickups, but that was our last major shot. And I remember as I was looking at playback, I was a little bit concerned. I'm like, is this smoke too much? I wasn't really convinced. So I needed to get Felipe's opinion. And then I'm like, Felipe, can you check this out? He saw it. He's like, oh my God, we're done. This is amazing. I'm like, all right, we're done.
It's amazing.
We're wrapping this up.
Yeah.
It's so authentic. You can't make that stuff up. That's beautiful. Well, Robertino, who's one of our programmers who's responsible for finding this beautiful film for us, is saying how beautiful it is, a story, and what wishes you well. Thank you for your great work, muchachos. And my friend Matt, who I just showed, I was actually watching. I didn't even know he was watching right now. So he says, thanks for the shout out and joining this conversation. So if you are watching live and you do have any comments or questions for our cast and crew, we have a few more minutes with them. But I would love for you all, in our remaining minutes, to just speak to, we always like to say, brave makers about braving your own way. You can't just wait around, right, for someone to believe in you, to believe in your idea, to tell your story. You've got to get out there and do it. Sounds like you did this. I mean, I would never have imagined it was done in a weekend. It looks like it took a lot longer. But let's start with you, Miguel. What do you want to say to all those who are wanting to tell their story or afraid? How do they conquer their obstacles? What would you encourage them to do to get out and break into this industry?
There's different aspects in terms of, quote unquote, telling your story. But the one that I always advocate is writing your story first. And that only really happens when you actually, before, when I was kind of creating a lot of stories, I was like, I need inspiration. I need to wait for inspiration. I need to take a trip. I need to go to the beach. I'll write when I'm inspired. I was just waiting for inspiration. And all of a sudden, we started studying with this mentor. Her name is Diana Castle, which is phenomenal. And she really kind of instilled in our mind that, you need to have a schedule. Every art, if you're a pianist, you practice every single day. If you're play the violin, if you're a gymnast, you practice every single day. But sometimes us as creatives, we are looking out here for inspiration. So once I shifted my schedule, and I recommend it for everybody that is a creative and is, searching that inspiration. Once I shifted my schedule from writing 7:30 to 10:30 a.m. every single day, all of a sudden my inspiration kind of started shifting, and I started becoming inspired between 7:30 and 10:30 a.m. So what I would really, really kind of encourage everybody is to set a schedule and give yourself that time. Even if you just sit there and nothing happens for 3 hours, you did your work. Inspiration didn't come, but you did your work and you showed up. And I really encourage that. And there's also this beautiful book called the War of Art, not to be confused with The Art of War. This is the War of Art on how we sabotage ourselves in our own creative ways, and we make excuses that, we convince ourselves not to tell our stories. And I encourage everybody out there, we all have beautiful stories inside of us that need to be told. So to just nurture ourselves and kind of give us a space to be able to start bringing these stories out on paper. And that would be my advice to folks that wanted to tell their stories.
Right on. Thank you. Sal, what's your advice?
That's a great advice. I think, so many times we're just to piggyback on what Miguel said, for the longest time, I always said, well, what if this doesn't work out? What's my backup plan? What's my backup plan? And I always was very conscientious of having another job or whatever. And I have a family. I mean, I raised two children, my wife and two children. And so when I started having a family, it became more and more. I had responsibilities, a home, etc. So you have to pay bills and that kind of thing, and you really start to second guess your decisions in terms of how are you going to do it. And I think you just have to persevere. You have to persevere, and sooner or later things will happen for you. But you do have to prepare yourself, because when those opportunities present themselves and you're not ready, then it's going to be a wasted opportunity. But if you're ready, sometimes timing is everything. Something happens and you're there and you're prepared, and that's why I guess I've been able to make a career out of this. And it took me a long time, also, probably not for the younger generation, but because I came from a different generation where there wasn't a lot of people that I could look up to. I didn't. It took me a long time to consider myself an artist, and when I finally did, it really transformed my thinking and my approach to the work, to the craft, and it became fun, And to this day, I mean, I really enjoy what I do. I have a passion for it. I still enjoy it very much, I love being on the set. I'm still in wonderment every time I go on a set, whether it's theater or film. I go and touch the walls to see what they're made of, I just am fascinated by it. And I think we have to, it's a way to preserve, you have to hold on to that wonderment. You don't have to hold on. I'm saying, if you're an artist and you want to create, that's something that you can use,
I like that. Hold on to the wonderment too. That's a great quote. Hold on to the wonderment. Luis, what do you have to say?
Look, I agree with everything Miguel and Sal have said, and you brought up something that has been sort of at the, I would say at the nucleus of the way Miguel and myself have worked as a collaborative for many years, is this notion of not waiting. I think specifically as actors, and even writers, I've had both those experiences as a producer as well as filmmakers. I think there's this notion that we have to wait and sort of get chosen out of thousands of people that you're going to go and sort of have this opportunity with a director, whatever, or this producer or this project. And the idea of waiting to be chosen, waiting to for somebody to say you're valid or you're good enough to be part of this project. There has to be a moment where I feel as artists, as actors, as writers, as producers, as directors, we have to just say, I have to create that moment for myself. I have to create that opportunity for myself, for ourselves. And like I said, that's a philosophy that I've adopted. I subscribe to, that Miguel has adopted and also subscribes to. And I would say that was a game changer for me. The idea of not waiting and not waiting for somebody to say, I pick you. The sort of the paradigm became is, I pick myself, and this is my crew, and this is who I'm going to do this with, and we're going to do something great, because the passion has to be there. Like Sal said, the wonderment is always there, and I would just say that, I would say for any creative, any filmmaker out there that's watching this, the idea of being brave, bring a brave maker, go out there and do it for yourself.
Yes, I pick myself. I love that. Philippe, what do you have to say?
my main thing that I literally learned on this project is be very, very careful about the projects that you choose to do. I was very apprehensive to do this project at first just because of the whole taboo nature of going into a very, very kind of conservative, kind of old school mentality area and put it all out there. And basically, you know, as we're doing it and afterwards, as I see, I go, if you're not pushing the envelope, or if you're not, you know, scratching or crossing the line of like, are we allowed to say this? Should this be talked about? If your project is not on that cusp, then what are you doing? You know what I mean? I think going forward, everything that I want to shoot is no longer, let's make it just to make it. For me personally, as a, you know, cinematographer, artist, whatever, is, you know, tell your story. Don't wait for tomorrow, tell it today, and be as raw as possible. When Miguel asked me to do this project, he goes, what am I waiting for? What am I waiting for? I don't need any permission from anyone. And honestly, you know, this story, this film, the more and more I watch it, it's heavy. It's heavy because it is. And, you know, 9 out of 10 things we watch on Netflix are kind of just entertainment pieces. And I'm a big advocate for, like I said, tell things that push the envelope for you personally and for others, for the unsung hero. You know, we're a lot more than filmmakers. We can push an agenda, and we can speak for those who don't normally.
I love that. Be as raw as possible. I agree. If we're not telling stories, yes, I mean, don't get us wrong. Entertainment is important. Escapism is important, right? We need to laugh and we need to cry. And if we can also do those things for entertainment that also get under our skin, make us feel uncomfortable, push the boundaries of what it looks like to be a more inclusive world, a more accepting world, a more compassionate world, then boom, we're hitting on all those cylinders. So that's beautiful, Philippe. Yeah. Thank you. All of you. This was really, really great. We're so grateful to have you on our show today. If you're watching live, thank you so much. Please share this on your social medias. Please share Acuitzeramo, the film and the website. We'll put it in our show notes if you're listening on the podcast. And also go to our YouTube page. This conversation will live there forever in perpetuity. So you can watch the archived version of this. And speaking of, we just made a short film with a lot of love for the Latinx community called Killer Couch. It's on our YouTube page today. It's only a 6-minute short film called Killer Couch. Yes, it's called Killer Couch, but it does have some heart and some love, and it's raw. It pushes the envelope, especially for our Latinx familia. So check it out because we send you much love, and go vote. You need to vote on Tuesday, okay? If you haven't already, please vote. It's super important. Know that Bravemaker exists to tell these brave stories. Go to bravemaker.com. Join us. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. All of your donations help us continue to do this, have these festival screenings, help us tell brave stories that change culture, and help us continue to support artists like the team here that gave us and shared this great short film with us. So finally, again, thank you to all you filmmakers. We're super grateful for you, and we encourage you to keep making these films and come back, share whatever you do next, Miguel, and bring your awesome cast and crew with us. Any final things you want to say as the writer-director, Miguel, before we sign off?
Hopefully we can all come back with the feature of Acuitzeramo very soon.
Nice. Is that the plan?
That is the plan. Luis and I are writing it at the moment. Yes.
Is Felipe on board?
I'm available. Well,
please. And I second that, Tony, about voting. Please vote.
Yes.
Vote.
And if Bravemaker can help in any way, please let us know. Our dream, if you're watching and listening, we want to be a film fund. We want to fund filmmakers like this team. We want to tell stories. We want our name on projects like this because we believe that stories are one of the most powerful mediums in the world to change culture. So I hope you do too. So Krystina, we always sign off with this: brave stories change the world.
And you are the story. Goodbye, everybody.
All right. Till next time.